So the next part is the talk by Adrian Djura, the CEO of Flat Hill, a studio that develops VR games. His talk will answer why data analysis is more important in VR than in traditional games. So let's find out. Adrian, the stage is yours.
Hello. Hello everyone. I'm Adrian Djura. I'm coming from Flat Hill Games. And today I want to talk to you about the data that we have in VR game and why it's very important. The title of the presentation is why it's more important than in traditional games, but to be honest, everybody knows that data is important in all of products, games, software and services. So I want here just to emphasize why in VR, what kind of data can we gather and what can we do with it. So I will give you, before that, intro about a bit of gaming industry so that you know what you can expect and what we will focus on. And later I will give you some examples of the data from our game that we already have launched. Before that, I just want to tell you something about me. I started 13 years ago as a founder and the CTO of iPix Entertainment, one of the biggest gaming companies in Serbia, where we bootstrapped the company from 3 co-founders up to 400 employees. And we were doing hidden object puzzle adventure games. We were very good at it. We wanted to expand in everything, in animated movies, comic books, indie games, casual, and everything failed, so we didn't have a lot of success there. We sold the company to Playrix, and after that I moved to do VR games. In the meantime, I took over the Ubisoft studio in Belgrade, where my goal was to build the studio up to one point, and in 3 years I managed to scale up to 200 employees, where we worked on some of the biggest AAA titles like Ghost Recon, Riders Republic, Assassin's Creed. The recently Assassin's Creed was released where Belgrade Studio worked Assassin's Creed Mirage, and the new one a few days ago, Assassin's Creed VR, which is also one of the projects that Belgrade worked on. In this studio, I learned a lot about the AAA industry, about the corporate culture and everything, so it was a really great experience for me. But I left that to focus on VR games with my own company, Flat Hill Games, where we are based in a small town of Vršac, and we have 8 team members that are working on developing exclusively VR games. So we are working only on VR games, nothing more. This is a choice that we decided to do in 2018 because we believed in the medium and that the market will grow, and we wanted to be one of the first that will work on that. Until now, we released Clash of Chefs game. It's a cooking multiplayer game, which had a really huge success on the Oculus Quest store. We are really satisfied with it, and now we are working on the new project, The Mixologist. This is a working title, so this is the first time that we are talking about it, and both of these games can be tried in the fun zone, so if everyone can try it, we are there with the headset to showcase you the games. I want to just tell you something about how games are made today and what the users, what the players are thinking about them. Before, we had like this popular meme where the original games was a full game, and later, as the time passed, the players feel that the games are not that complete, that everything is separated in DLCs, that not too much effort is put into the game. In reality, it's not like that. The situation is complex, but there is still pressure from the stakeholders, as game development is a huge business now, and we have a lot of stakeholders that companies need to earn a lot of money, so they are pushing the products to be earlier on the market when they are ready. But we also have more complex games, and we have now opportunity for those games to be updated after we launch them. Before, in 1999, even 2005, it was not usual to update the game. It was like finish game and that's it. Now we can iterate on it we can improve the game, and we can make a better game. So not everything is as bad as it seems in this meme, but now we have that opportunity with the data to make a lot better game than we would make without it. I also want to mention the most popular monetization models, free-to-play and premium. Free-to-play is actually analyzing the data, tweaking the game to earn the more money from the players. So this is where you buy additional things into the game within a payment, and premium you just sell the game, and that's it. So when we talk about the analytics, most of people think about the analytics in free-to-play games. We'll focus now on premium, which is not usual, because a lot of games are not even analyzing the analytics in a premium game, because you finish the game, you release it, and that's it. I intentionally put those two pictures here because this is something that people think about the games when we talk about free-to-play and premium, like casual titles for mobile and like AAA premium. But these two are also free-to-play and premium, where we see the opposite thing. So it's not about the quality of the game or anything. Free-to-play and premium is now the same. You can have a game that is free-to-play and premium that are the same. So it's just a different monetization model. Why we are doing this in a premium game? We want to build a product more like a product that is like a software and service, where you see this iteration loop, where you are iterating all the time, where you build, measure, and learn something from it. So this is very important to have the best possible game that you can have. So why do we care about that when we already have the game that is live and it's already selling? And this is one of the important things, that we have reviews that affects if the player wants to buy. But in the lower part, you can see the most important part here. This is the numbers of units that a game sells over time. This is how it looks now. Before 10 years, it was like a spike, where when you publish a game, you see a spike in the first months, and that's it. You don't have any revenue after that. You have revenue, but it's really, really small. Now we don't see that anymore. The market has changed a lot, and you will see like a more long tail selling of the game, and that's why we want to improve the quality of our game over time, because in that way we can earn more money even from a premium game, not just a free-to-play. Now let's get back to the VR part. Where is the VR here? This is the MetaQuest device, and this is the VR now. So when we talk about the VR, this is the market. Nothing else exists right now. 90% of our revenue comes from this device, and we are available on 18 different platforms. Why are we available there? Because we don't know who will be the next MetaQuest. So that's why we want to work with everyone, but from 18 platforms, only one platform is earning 90% of the revenue, and this is the MetaQuest, particularly the MetaQuest 2, which sold around 20 million units. This is the data from 6 months that was leaked. A lot of people don't believe in this data because it's like huge when you are thinking about PlayStation and Xbox. This is something that they were really proud of a few years ago when they sold this amount of hardware. And how did it happen? It happened, I think, the last 2 Christmas sales, because the Quest has positioned itself as a console. So when you enter in the US, when you enter a hardware store, you had like Xbox, PlayStation, and Quest. And above that, it's written console. So you are buying a console for gaming. You are not buying a VR headset. That's how they got to these numbers. So that's an important thing, because the games are earning the most money on the Quest when we are talking about B2C market, where you are selling your product. All others are not important now. The specific thing about the VR is also that your whole body is the controller. When you try to analyze how the game is performing, or what is the experience in your game, it's a lot harder because you have a lot of variations regarding the input. You don't know how the players will react there are too many input variations. So you cannot test everything. That is a big issue when you are working on VR game. When you are working on traditional games, let's say mouse click or touch, you can click in only one kind of way. In VR, you can move your hands however you like it. These are the user reviews from our own game. So I got the really bad ones, where we are receiving sometimes like really bad reviews, like glitching game, don't work, and these comments are not helping us at all. So why is the game glitching? They didn't write it, so it's okay, but we can assume it has bugs. We are testing it all the time, there's no bugs, everything is working as expected. But we are still getting those kind of things. Why I'm getting back? Because your whole body is the controller and you don't know how the users are playing your game. This is a case, it's not really a case from our game, but we try to emulate this with the data. If we went now to analyze the data, because we found out that everything is okay with the functionality, everything works as intended, but let's see what can be else there. Let's say most of the time when people complain about glitching is something that they drop from the hand, something that they try to pick it up and it's not working. And let's look at the analytics of what percentage of users dropped an object unintentionally, so without clicking the grab object. So that can happen if you hit into something or something like that, so the object will form from your hand. And the data says like 15% of our user, which is not very useful, which is a big issue, because we cannot get a lot of data from that. But, as we said, we need to think about different kind of way of analyzing the data. In VR, we can do a segmentation that we cannot do in the other games. We can do a segmentation by user height. This is something specific for VR. In regular games, this is not important, but in VR, you can do a segmentation by user height. And most of the time, you will get a data something like this. So we see what the problem is. Based on the user of the height, not every user has experience with that. So you need to test in a lot of different kind of ways with a different kind of users, different physical abilities, so that you can find out where the problem is. This is where the data can help you a lot if you do a good segmentation of that data. I will show you how it looks in reality. What does it mean? So this is a tall player, let's say someone who is tall, who takes an object which is, let's say, down. A normal height of player takes the object like this. So we have different curves in the path where you are taking the object. If you notice, we also have a handlebar where you can adjust the height of the table here. And you can put the table on whichever height you want so that it's easier for you to get. But not all players use that, of course. And we have a situation like this. If you are short or you are sitting down and you try to grab something, you can find a problem and with the edge of the table, and you can spill the drinks that you have. This is some kind of, this is like, we filmed this intentionally, so it was not a problem live in our game, but we want to showcase what kind of problems you can detect in a game. And this kind of problems are very hard to detect when you don't test with enough scenarios, and in reality you cannot test with all those kind of scenarios. There are too many variations, and that's why it's very important to gather the best data that you can and to analyze it in the best possible way. One of the also things that are really interesting is that you can, like, let's say, put triggers in the data that you can analyze it. How many times a user's false pixel object, let's say like that. If you see that the user tries to do something like this, like multiple times, you see that something is not good, something is wrong, and then you need to analyze it a lot more. We had a case in our, we were lucky to have a case in our own team where a person in our own team when we tested internally, everybody of us picked an object from a place, and everything worked except only one person in the team. That person could not pick the object. And we were trying to analyze what is happening. You cannot see anything. It's the same as everybody else. So it's very hard to detect what is happening with your, but we are looking, everyone is looking, so there's 5 people looking at him, he's doing everything right, and we cannot see the problem there. The issue was in the timing when he presses and releases the button on the controller. It's like a millisecond of later than the others. So this is a really hard problem to detect when you have, when you don't have the analytics and when you are not analyzing the data from the game in the correct way. Here you can see a simulation of that where you are taking the object a bit later, you are clicking the button. So this is where the analytics helps us a lot to try to find the issues in the games. There's also something interesting here that we didn't see in other kind of games. It's how you can exit the game. This is something that's very useful. We got the ideas from other guys inspired us. I will explain what is happening here. Because the VR headset is like a, you can track everything, heads and hands. And in the analytics, if you see that someone is taking the headset off and putting it on the table, this is the first picture that looks oddly, like dropping your head. So you're actually taking off the headset from your head and putting it on the table. And in the other case, you see just that the player disappears. In the first case, he put it on the table. In the second one, he exited through the menu from the Quest device. Why is this important? Because this is where you can calculate also your churn. How many people are not coming back to your game? What did happen there? You cannot analyze all the players at the same time because maybe those on the left side wanted to make a pause. They are feeling tired. Somebody called them, so they are putting just the headsets and forgot about it. So that's why maybe the data from there is not valid, and it's more important to analyze the person on the right side because they exited from the menu and maybe entered another game. So this is very interesting because those kind of things you can do with VR because you have a lot of tracking and data regarding how the users are behaving. When you analyze some play sessions, you can very clearly see when they are talking with someone, where they are doing something else because of those spatial analytics. So we now introduce the concept of spatial analytics, which is not what is happening with other kind of games. Now, as you see, we have a lot of complex data, and we want to make it even more complex. So that's where we're introducing hand tracking. We said that you are tracking 2 controllers headset, you have a lot of user cases, but now when you introduce the hand tracking in that, it's even more complicated because you have like 26 joints on your hand and everybody is doing differently. Everything is doing differently. So this is really, really big issue when you try to detect what is happening in the game, and this is still what we are trying to solve, everyone in the industry, because the experience that the players have now is not the best one. If somebody tried playing with the hand tracking some kind of games, you saw that the tracking in itself is not really that good like when you're using the controllers. This is something that will change with Apple Vision Pro. They want to go toward the path of hands first, not the controllers, but we need technology to be better here. Why is this a really big issue? Because what do we think it's like a grab? How are we grabbing an object? This is something that most of the people are thinking about, how they grab the object. But this is also a grab object when you are starting from half a hand and just closing the hand. You can even do it like this, just like that. So this is actually how we are seeing most of the users who are a bit of afraid to grab with their hand. So you need to program your logic to work even with tracking like these kind of things. And of course, the ones who used HoloLens or something like that, they are always picking like this. So you have now 5 fingers, 26 joints on your hand, and you need to find out how the players are trying to pick the object, and this is why it's very hard to make the best possible experience of the game. So why it is important to, what is important to address in a VR game? I try to find like 3 things that are very important here for a VR game, like immersion, comfort, and safety, and gameplay mechanics. Because in VR, the most important thing is how you feel when you play something. If you are porting traditional AAA games or any other kind of games to VR, you don't have the best experience because it's not designed for VR. So I'm not a fan of porting VR games, porting regular traditional games to VR, because they are not made from ground up for VR. The best ones are those who are made for VR. And that's why we need to analyze and see what is the most important thing, where analytics and data can help us make the best kind of game that we can have. When you talk about the immersion, it's the intention of the player that didn't reflect the outcome. So every player knows how something is behaving in the real world. Because the VR is an immersive platform, you expect the same to happen when you are in the VR. When you click an object with a mouse in a traditional game, let's say, you expect something to happen, maybe the object will fly by, but when you take an object with a hand, you expect it to grab in some kind of way to move it. So this is why it's important not to break the immersion and to think about everything that is there. You cannot put just one, let's say, a shovel in a room in a game where you have like a decoration, because everybody will want to take the shovel and do something with it. So that's why it's you need to tailor your game very carefully when you make a VR game, and every object that you put can interact with a lot of things there, so you don't so you are not allowed to break the immersion to have the best possible game, because it's very important for that. Here is also it's very important to have a reliable world's environments and all kind of things. Of course, if your game is more sci-fi, you can play a lot more with that. But if you have something that's more realistic, it's very important to have a really good and believable world. For comfort and safety, everybody is playing the VR game differently because of the physical abilities, the body, as I mentioned before, your whole body is the controller, so it's not the same experience for a person who is shorter, taller, different build types. So that's why it's very important to also try to measure what is the pace of the game, how tired are they becoming when they play our game, to adapt your game style and everything toward that person. Maybe, okay, you want to target like a fitness type of people who are playing your game, and that's okay. But if you want to have the broadest appeal, you need to also measure every kind of things that can impact comfort, safety, and everything. As you can say, it depends. We saw a lot of videos where in the boxing game, the people are hitting the walls, hurting themselves, so those kind of things. So that's why it's very important to think also about that. And of course, the last one is also that is very important for traditional games, is the gameplay mechanics. Is it working and easy to understand? Because of the expectations, you need to tweak, and this is where the analytics and data can help you the most to analyze, because, as I said previously, you cannot test all the cases. You need to test all the time, and you can find really interesting data when you are testing with different kind of people. When we are showcasing playtesting with those people who even have the experience and don't have experience. A lot of times we are testing with people who are not experienced with VR games because they can tell us a lot of data which we didn't think about in which kind of way can they use something in the some objects in the game and how they are thinking about it. So it's very interesting to play test also with the people who didn't have experience with that. Lastly, this is the data that was gathered here yesterday. So we had like 40 different players playing 40 different sessions of different players who played our games, and we collected analytics, and this is like a gazing data, where you can see where they were looking, with what object they were interacting. So this is something that we need to analyze all the time, to track it, and to make a decision based on that, because it's very important to have the best possible game, because we are earning the money if the game is the most comfortable for everyone to play. And we hope that this project will be successful, because now we are doing the right way to analyze from the beginning all the data that we have, which we didn't do with our previous game. So thank you. That was this project.
Does anyone have any questions for Adrian? Just the mic.
We started a bit earlier for the others, so.
Yeah, there's plenty of time for questions.
Hi, thank you for the nice talk. Let's imagine you are creating the brand new game, VR game, and there are lots of, I guess, lots of ways how you can track all the events, all the things. Could you give a couple of hints, like what's the basic, what to start from, what events you need in the beginning?
The most important is the tracking of the player hands and headset. What is actually recording in the whole session that you have, if you are before the release of the game. So you can track different kind of data before and after that. Before you release the game, the most important thing is to have the separate sessions, like we did, like the gazing and the hands and everything, so that you analyze how the player behave. After you release the game, you have the data, but then it's more toward like what the guys from free-to-play are doing, where you analyze the different kind of funnels, the progression of the game and everything. So it's more like traditional analytics, because you have a lot of data from a lot of different players. But before you finish the game, you need to track a lot of those data, just because you cannot test it by yourself every possible scenario. So you can put the tracking and then make some triggers that will show you the sessions that could be interesting for you. So let's say what happens if an object falls 10 times on the floor. And you just run a query, give me that session, let's see what happened there. So it's more like specific session that you want to see what happened, because when you are testing with players, you can see what they did wrong. In VR, it's now we need to test with a lot of different kind of people and the different kind of data to get.
Hi, you're saying sessions and queries. How do you provide this data? Who is giving you this data? Is it Oculus?
So
how you come to this?
Yeah, we have a few different ways. This data that I show you is from a cognitive 3D solution. They are doing the analytics for VR games. It's a spatial analytics tools. Even Meta is implementing in all apps and now games. If you're working with Meta, then they can provide you that analytics tool. Beside that, we also implemented our own analytics tool that is working the similar way to record the sessions. So we are using our own backend services because we don't have like that kind of spatial data, and we use whatever we can as a software that like Unity Analytics is enough for the other kind of data that we need, like session time and everything.
So basically you are sending to your server some data that you're interested in.
Yeah, we are using 3 or 4 different kind of tools to accomplish a goal for that. It's not only one tool, because still that one tool that does everything that doesn't exist.
Hi. Are you also combining user experience research with this data analysis of user behavior? Because that's important.
Yep.
Different users can have the same behavior but totally opposite experience of it. That's number one. And number two, how do you define benchmarks and KPIs for your analytics? Thanks.
So yeah, first for the user experience, yeah, that's the most important things. that you can see what is the user experience, and it's a bit harder to get that when you're doing some like online play testing or something like that. So basically, most of the user experience we get from events where we are talking with the users and talking directly with them. So this kind of way is how we are doing it right now, because to be honest, VR is not that big right now, and you can get a lot of data from direct communication with the players. So if you have a few, and they like to help you a lot. So you have Discord server, you have a few players there that can gather a lot of data by themselves. So this is one of the biggest things that we have. Regarding the KPIs, we don't have a smart solution for that. So it's basically, we try to analyze what could be good, what could not be good, play test a lot internally, and we want to see what our goal is. Regarding the performance of the game, how do we want the players to play the game? Do we want to play faster, slower? So it's really tied up to the game design that we want to achieve. We test a lot of different kind of scenarios so that we can see which one performs the best, so where are the players satisfied the most. So, and based on that, we don't have like KPIs like retention or anything like that. It's mostly like let's do something that the people will like. We don't want negative reviews. That's the whole point. Things we don't want negative. We want the best score that we have. So for us, it was not important to have the retention and everything else. Right now, it didn't impact the sales of the game. So it's mostly like our game is short. It's not something that we need to play for 100 hours. It's like 8-hour experience, and that's it.
Hi, thanks for the talk. What incentives you have when you want to expose that there is some misbehavior? For example, you said if someone drops an object more than 10 times, that's your query, and then you can see all the examples that you said. But why would you query something like that? Do you have some kind of analytics that can expose clusters and then see where the dropouts are, or how do you just expose problems like that?
When we play the game, we can see what kind of errors the player makes. We know them, and then we want to filter out all the good sessions, let's say like that. So we are just doing like filtering the good sessions where everything went as expected by our parameters. So he played it correctly, he didn't deliver the wrong order multiple times, so you are filtering it out, everything that is good. So you are interested in the bad data. From bad data you are picking, let's say you pick one session, then you get the idea what is wrong there. So it's manual work, but there are not too many sessions where you are doing it by hand. If we will have a lot more data, then we would need to make a smarter solution to implement some kind of, let's say, analyzing with AI. You know, ChatGPT is also helpful for us. We are using it from game design mostly, but for analyzing some session, like is it a good or bad session, ChatGPT can give you something like that, good, bad, and that's it. So it can help in some kind of things that, but right now we are just filtering out the good data and by hand analyzing the bad data, and then from that you can make you can have an idea for a query what did happen. And as I said, mentioned, this is an idea that I got now for like 10 times. If you drop the object, you know, you are just playing with that and trying to find out what is wrong with the game. So it's a manual work. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I guess not. So
Okay, thank you everyone.
and thank you, Adrian. Here is a certificate for you. Okay. Može.